Hello and welcome to the Mockingbird Show. Today I've come with a book reading session, and this is a book reading session for the month of July. So today I had a parenting session at Tender Petals, and I actually interacted with parents who came up with a lot of inquisitiveness to know about how and why their toddler behaves in certain way and all of it. And it was really interesting, to get into the toddler psychology, to understand child, to understand their basic behavior and the basic characteristics and the ways to deal with them. So I thought that I'll come up with this chapter today, which is, in my book, the basic characteristic of toddlers and way to deal with them. And it is from my book, The First 5 Years, Decoding Childhood, Empowering Parenthood. So let's delve into this chapter and know more about the basic characteristics of toddlers. So toddlers, typically between 12 to 36 months of age, are in a unique developmental window characterized by rapid physical, emotional, cognitive changes. And this period is both delightful and challenging for parents and caregivers, as toddlers assert independence while still relying heavily on adult for safety, emotional regulation, and guidance. So understanding these foundational years is very important, and this part of a child's life is actually very, very crucial because they're learning a lot. For them, the world is new and they are learning through interaction. So it's between 1 to 3 years. How a toddler is behaving, the way they are, showing the basic characteristics that they have. So let's look into the core characteristics of a toddler: egocentrism and emerging autonomy. So here, when a child is very little, they believe that the world revolves around them, and because they feel that they are the center of the world, they want all the attention, they want all the love, they want that they should be noticed, and they are very particular about the things they like say a toy or the school bag or the water bottle, and they are very possessive. So they feel that they have their own choices which they want to actually kind of tell the adults in terms of the clothes they want to wear, the toys they want to play with, and all of that. So this is a normal part of autonomic development. So egocentrism is a basic characteristic of a child, and it is nothing unusual. Another is curiosity and questioning. So every toddler, like I said, that they have a mind which is open to learning. They're so little and everything is so beautiful, wonderful, and mysterious around them that they are continuously asking questions: why, what, when, how, where. And we as adults need to answer them, and we should not take this questioning of the toddlers as something which is irritating or irrelevant. And here they are actually trying to understand the cause, the effect, the relationship of people with them or with an object with them. So they're trying to actually evaluate the entire environment around them. So they come up with so many questions. Third is short attention span. So we are, as a parent or also as an early childhood educator, often get very irritated when children are not paying attention. They are not like the class 10, 8, 9, 6, 7 students, who would just pay attention when the teacher tells them to do so. And toddlers, in fact, have very little attention span, 5 minutes, 8 minutes max. And as a result, we need to keep things short, engaging, and very, very interactive, because that is kind of, able to keep their attention in place. If it is boring, if it is not interactive, it is not engaging, then they more quickly lose their attention and focus on the things that we are doing with them. So movement and motor development, development of the gross motor skills, walking, running, climbing, hopping. So when the toddlers are just 1 year, they start to crawl, and then they start to get up, crawl on their knees, and then they start to walk, then slowly they start running, then hopping, a bit of climbing. Hopping comes later though. So these physical advancements are often, we feel that when a child is running, we would say, don't run too fast, you'll fall, you'll feel hurt, you'll hurt yourself and all of it. But actually, yes, they need supervision, but they also need the ability to use movement in order to learn, the basic, develop the basic motor, gross motor skills. Coming to emotional intensity and tantrums, so children express frustration physically, so they are, very often we can see that they are throwing things, they're screaming, they throw objects. So once I had seen one toddler who came into my school, and the mother said that my son is really very naughty. I said, this is the age to be naughty, and you can't expect otherwise. And when I took the child to our activity room, I could see that he was picking up things and throwing it to the other children who were there in the room. Thankfully, we had those which were made of sponges and all, so it did not hurt the other child. But again, this emotional expression, and sometimes, when they throw objects, they try to actually communicate something, maybe because they are not able to communicate effectively at this stage. They do not have full language development, so at times they behave in this manner. So we have to look at that as well and try to understand the underlying reason for the emotional outbursts and also of tantrums. Imaginative thinking and fantasy play, very common among toddlers. So never label a toddler as talking to somebody, or don't say that he's seen some ghost. They do fantasize and they do talk with fairies and pixies, and they have their own friends whom they make, and it is not also about lying. So if they say that I've seen somebody and I was talking with them, playing with them, it's not that they are lying. They have an imaginative thinking capacity and fantasy play. So toddlers are also shy, and they face social challenges. So when we see a toddler coming to school, we often see that he or she doesn't want to mix up, they are shy, they are hiding behind their parents, they are also not interacting with others. Sometimes they have behaviors which are like, they kick and beat the others. So it's actually an expression of their social challenges that they face, and these are also quite overwhelming for the parents and the educators. Yet at the same time, we need to understand that these are natural, and they would overcome these with our support and with our teaching them how to deal with the emotion, how to emotionally self-regulate. So exploration of body and sexual parts, very common. So a child who touches and feels his own body is not a pervert, and he or she is actually inquisitive. And it is also a concept of appropriate touch and personal boundaries that we need to teach them in order to create that kind of an awareness, and also teach them about good touch and bad touch, so that they know if someone else is trying to molest them. So these kind of exploration of body and sexual awareness is also developed around this time. And I would share a few strategies with parents to deal with toddlers around this time, when someone is not very disciplined, or somebody is doing things that the parents feel annoyed about. So whatever we try to teach them, first thing is that we need to avoid punishment, and that is not a disciplining technique, I would say. So we need to practice reinforcement of positive behavior. Punishment is a penalty, so we will not give them a penalty, rather we would teach them to reinforce positive behavior, and then we can also show them behavior charts. And then positive discipline is, it can be taught very beautifully. And to know more, of course, you need to read this book. And minimize attention to negative behavior. So many children are trying to get attention of the parents, of the educators, of the peers, by showing negative behavior, because otherwise they feel that they are not getting the attention they want. So we should actually not really give lot of power to that negative behavior by giving it attention. So if we give more attention, we are reinforcing that behavior, so we need to ignore it and subtly take the child towards positive behavior traits. And this is very important. We also need to use gentle reminders and redirections, because children tend to forget very easily. So if we tell them that do not lie, it is not necessary that for the next 5-6 days or 5-6 months they'll remember that. So we need to reinforce good behavior, we need to reinforce etiquettes, we need to reinforce appropriate behavior, peer relationships, all of that with children. And then we can also share our feelings. So children often realize and understand the feelings of the elders. We feel that they have no sense of understanding, but it is a false assumption. They understand the feelings. So whenever I used to be in the classroom, and my children used to really create chaos, and I would tell them, see, ma'am is so sad today because you are creating so much of chaos, they would actually quieten. And that is something I had seen for myself and experienced for myself. So that means children learn. So that means children actually understand feelings, and they can understand if you share your feelings, your frustrations, your inability to deal with so much of ruckus. So you need to share. Also, we can modify the environment. So a child who is really disrupting the environment, we can actually take them away, separate them from that environment, and take him or her to another environment. Say he's creating a lot of ruckus in the classroom, so we take him out to the play area or the activity room or wherever, where he or she is exploring some other things, or maybe the peace table. So we use the concept of peace table, where the child is made to sit and they have the peace things, like feathers and all of that, like pebbles, and they interact with those things, and they are quietly sitting and also reflecting the why they are now out of the class and why they're sitting in the peace table. So it really works to kind of soothe the mindset of a child who is at that time maybe feeling a rush of emotions. Timeouts and calm spaces. Definitely calm spaces. Like I said, the peace table is very important, and here we are giving them short timeouts where they are, sitting in another area where they are out of the classroom maybe, or out of that environment where they're creating some ruckus, and they are trying to understand, self-regulate, and reflect. We should also praise and encourage children who are depicting good behavior, so that they feel a sense of pride, and they feel that their good work is being appreciated. At the same time, children who are watching them getting praise also get attracted to positive behavior traits. So it is a two-way thing. And teach social and emotional skills. Yes, we need to teach them to say sorry, please, excuse me, the basic etiquettes, understanding about the own body, taking care of one's body. So a lot of things we need to teach them, and how to self-regulate, how to deal with their peers, how to actually develop friendship bond, develop honesty and compassion, love for nature, and so many things we need to teach them. So it's also important to build personal skills and independence. So we need to encourage children to be independent. Yes, often they need scaffolding, often they need help, because they are at different junctures where they are moving from one stage to the next. And at those junctures, definitely we need to give them a helping hand and take them forward to cross that level and move on to the next level. But we need to also preserve their independence. We need to see that they are trying to do it independently. If they need help, only then we give them the help that they require. Otherwise, they should be allowed to do things on their own. So basically this is about the chapter, and this is a very interesting chapter, because here we are talking about a lot of things which lot of young parents want to know: why their children are behaving in this manner, why their children are throwing tantrums, why are they kind of not socializing outside. What is it that is bothering them? Why are they showing negative behavior traits? So there are a lot of questions that come up from the parents end in terms of their child's behavior and the basic characteristics of a toddler. So I feel that this video would help you a little, and if you want to know more about your child, you should read this book. It's a must read, I would say, and you can order it from Flipkart or from Amazon. And definitely this was a pleasure to share this chapter with you today. And after the parent teacher meet that we had today, I thought that this is the best chapter that I could read in this July session of my book reading. Thank you so much for joining me, and be a part of the Mockingbird Show. Like and subscribe to the channel and share it forward. Thank you.